Your choice for news at 4, and the news continues now at 5 with Colleen and Paul. Hi, Paul.
Hello, Kelly. Thank you very much. Coming up next, we had heard it all before, but for the jury in the O.J. Simpson trial, it was new, it was explosive. Up next, what this woman said about Detective Mark Furman. His words, his actions, and his attitudes. The Simpson case enters a crucial new phase. Also getting ready for the worst, battening down the hatches as a huge hurricane heads for Puerto Rico tonight. And it's back to school with record temperatures, too. We'll show you how teachers and students were wilting and hunting for buried treasure right in the middle of Los Angeles. The Channel 4 News at 5 begins right now.
You are watching Channel 4 News, coverage you can count on. Now, live in Southern California, this is Channel 4 News at 5.
Can you describe his demeanor when he spoke the words using the N-word about the black race? How did his face appear? Over.
He seemed disgusted.
Defense witness Kathleen Bell tells the jury about an encounter with Detective Mark Furman of the LAPD. She says Furman did use a racial slur. It is testimony that directly contradicts what Furman once told the jury in O.J. Simpson, the trial. Good evening, everybody. It's 5 o'clock, and I'm Paul Moyer.
And I'm Colleen Williams.
Our top story then at 5 o'clock tonight, the spotlight in the O.J. Simpson trial once again turns to Detective Mark Furman. It is testimony that is a triumph for the defense and could be a crushing blow for the prosecution. It is the devastating testimony of these two women. They told the jury that Furman not only used racial slurs, but even talked about killing blacks. This as the defense asked Judge Ito to take a second look at his ruling on the Furman tapes. And Judge Ito did just that. And moments ago, he made a change in that ruling. We'll tell you what it is. In the battle for blood, the defense witness says he saw Simpson's Bronco 9 days after the murders. He said he looked for the blood stains, and he didn't see one. We begin our live coverage tonight with two reports. Fernell Chapman has the day in court, and Phil Schuman has more about the tapes involving Mark Furman. We begin with Fernell.
Well, Paul, it has been a pretty good day in the courtroom for the defense. First, Simpson's lawyers were allowed to call jurors, or call witnesses, I should say, to the stand to tell the jury about racist statements made by Mark Furman. That was a major revelation for the jury. Then, just a few minutes ago, the defense succeeded in getting Judge Lance Ito to let the jury hear a new and different excerpt from the so-called Furman tapes.
They don't do anything. They don't go out and initiate a contract for 6 foot fight. They just been in prison for 7 years pumping away.
That is the audio the jury will be allowed to hear from the Furman tapes, an excerpt critical of female officers. Judge Ito changed his mind and selected that new excerpt for the jury to hear because the original excerpt he picked is of very poor audio quality. It's a minor victory for Simpson's lawyers, who want to paint a new and different picture of the retired detective. Testimony that former LAPD detective Mark Furman is a racist was presented to the jury for the very first time. The defense lined up 3 witnesses to testify: a woman who flirted with Furman, a man who was arrested by him, and a woman whose roommate dated Furman's partner. Kathleen Bell testified that she saw Furman at this Marine recruiting station in Redondo Beach and was shocked by some of his statements.
He said if I had my way, I'd gather, all the niggers would be gathered together and burned.
Bell was followed to the stand by Natalie Singer, whose roommate dated Furman's partner.
He said, the only good nigger is a dead nigger. I was shocked, stunned. I never met anyone that talks that way.
Then, as the defense argued to call this witness, Roderick Hodge, who was once arrested by Furman, prosecutor Chris Darden argued that enough is enough.
We have sat here, we have taken it on the chin. I think the defense has clearly established that Furman is a racist. Now let's get back to the matter of trying O.J. Simpson for killing these 2 people.
With that, the Furman issue was set aside temporarily. The defense then called this witness, a wholesale auto parts buyer.
My name is
William Blazzini told the jury he saw no blood inside Simpson's Ford Bronco when he looked in it more than a week after the murders. But under cross-examination by prosecutor Marcia Clark, the witness would not say no blood was actually there.
And you cannot tell the jury that 303, 304, and 305 were not there.
Correct.
You didn't see them.
I didn't see them. Correct.
Now, court is still in session at this hour and will continue until about 5:30 this evening. Let's take a look inside the courtroom live now. The screenwriter who made those so-called Furman tapes, Laura Hart McKinney, is on the witness stand. She is expected to continue testifying, producing the foundation necessary before parts of the tapes she made with Mark Furman are played before the jury. When that happens, we hope to bring you that live from the courthouse. Reporting live from downtown Los Angeles, I'm Fernell Chapman. Colleen?
All right, Fernell, thank you. And as you pointed out, today was a big day. A lot of controversy still surrounding the Mark Furman tapes. Laura Hart McKinney still on the witness stand right now. Again, as Fernell pointed out, we will switch there live as soon as those tapes are played inside the courtroom. Controversial Mark Furman interview tapes, but it first asked the judge to change his mind, change his ruling that, in fact, only 2 short passages could be used. Phil Schuman standing by live at the courthouse in downtown Los Angeles right now with more on the newest ruling on the Furman tapes. Phil?
Well, if you've been following this case, you know the defense was crushed by Judge Ito's ruling last week, severely limiting the use of the controversial Furman tapes. They spent much of the Labor Day weekend drafting a strongly worded motion asking the judge to reconsider, which was filed today. As you just heard at the beginning of Fernell Chapman's report, the judge granted them just one small concession. Here's how the argument went this afternoon.
They are going to look at someone who is a virulent, spiteful, angry racist differently than they're going to look at someone who is a casual racist.
Defense attorney Gerald Ullman explaining why he thinks the judge should reconsider his ruling, severely limiting the defense's use of the controversial Mark Furman tapes. In their motion to reconsider filed today, the defense said of Judge Ito's ruling, it deprives the jury of the most damning evidence of police perjury, racism, and cover-up ever presented to an American court. The defense went on. The only support for the ruling is the court's conclusory characterization that it is inflammatory. Evidence of racial bias will always be inflammatory. The defense said what Furman talks about on tape, such as planting evidence, manufacturing probable cause, makes that relevant and admissible and should be heard by the jury. The defense writing, Furman had both motive and opportunity to move evidence. The prosecution's argument that Furman was never alone at the Bundy crime scene was not supported by the evidence. The defense also wants in Furman's comments about being the most important witness in the trial of the century. Writing to the judge, such comments reveal his state of mind and that he is an arrogant and narcissistic opportunist. The prosecution, of course, adamant the judge's ruling on the Furman tapes stand unchanged.
I will grant the motion to reconsider for this one particular item. I will substitute excerpt 27.
And when he made his ruling, the judge granted the defense only one concession, replacing the hard-to-hear tape excerpt about where black Muslims live with another where Furman uses the N-word talking about the alleged failings of women officers in dealing with them. So once again, the judge has in effect traded one excerpt on the Furman tapes for another. He admitted, quite frankly, that he hadn't considered the audio quality of the earlier taped excerpt, and that's why he allowed the defense in effect to substitute this new one where he feels the jury can hear Furman use the N-word a little clearer. And that could come up later this afternoon, if not tomorrow morning, in court in front of the jury. Reporting live, Phil Schuman, Channel 4 News. Paul, Colleen.
Yeah, right, Phil. You're right about that because Laura McKinney is on the stand right now, and if the tapes begin to be played in court, we'll go there live. Here's where we stand on the trial at this point tonight. There was testimony today from 2 separate witnesses who heard ex-cop Mark Furman make those racist comments, even saying blacks should be burned. After a defense appeal, Judge Ito changes his mind on the Furman tapes, allowing a different portion to be heard by the jury, as Phil said. And a witness who says he didn't see any bloodstains, he didn't see them on Simpson's Bronco when it was in the impound yard. And the woman, as I said, who recorded the Furman tapes, Laura Hart McKinney, is on the stand as we speak right now in court. When they play the tapes, we will go live to the court and bring them to you. Colleen.
All right, Paul, other news tonight. Hurricane Luis is lashing the northern Leeward Islands in the Caribbean right now. Alerts are up in Puerto Rico and in the Virgin Islands. In San Juan, residents are bracing for the storm, with winds now being clocked at 125 miles per hour. All of this, of course, having a huge impact on tourism in the Caribbean. Rick Chambers has a live report right now from the newsroom to tell us all about it. Rick?
Yeah, Colleen, Luis is very big and showed his power this morning when he plowed across Antigua. And while his winds are tapering back a bit right now, the folks in his path are worried. Luis is the biggest hurricane of the season, and he is bearing down on the U.S. Virgin Islands.
People are in their houses now. They learned a lesson in Hurricane Hugo, so they knew how to prepare for this one. And now we're waiting for Louis to show up.
Already, Luis has wind gusts of 160 miles an hour, and his leading edge is, in fact, just now touching Puerto Rico.
In San Juan, we have some rains with winds, but not very strong winds. We're not talking about tropical storm winds, but it's a very heavy downpour.
Airports on both islands are closed. At LAX, American Airlines canceled its 11 connecting flights to San Juan this morning. Cruise lines like Carnival have already rerouted ships into the Western Caribbean out of the storm's path. At Southland travel agencies, agents watched their computers for storm updates, but began warning travelers months ago to stay out of the Caribbean.
We quite often offer them other destinations, Hawaii or some other places that the weather wouldn't be a problem.
Tonight, forecasters at the National Hurricane Center in Florida are trying to get a handle on where Luis will wander next.
Most of the long-range computer models have the hurricane moving up into this area and then turning more towards the north. But they don't move it very fast, so that's our concern.
Concern that Luis will stall over warm water and build in strength before moving on. They also say that Luis is still more than 700 miles from the U.S. mainland, and there is no telling where he'll turn next. Paul, Colleen?
Okay, Rick Chambers, thank you. Let's take you now live to the courtroom downtown, Criminal Courts Building, courtroom of Judge Lance Ito. That is Laura Hart McKinney, the screenwriter who recorded the now infamous comments by Mark Furman. Let's listen to her testimony.
When Officer Furman used this word, it was in conjunction to many of the things we would be discussing, and it was in a serious manner. It was not lighthearted. It was something that he would use in normal conversation.
All right. When he used this word, did he appear to you to be using it in a way that was insulting? You may answer that question. Was it insulting?
Wasn't.
Go ahead.
Was insulting to me. The word is insulting, and when he was using it in a demeaning, derogatory fashion. I don't know that he would think it was insulting, but I don't know that.
You've answered the question.
All right, you've answered the question. Did he use it in a disparaging manner? You may answer that.
Yes, it's a disparaging word. He was using it in a disparaging fashion.
In the course of the time that you came to interview this man over 10 years, did you ever form an opinion of whether or not he was a racist?
Sustained.
Or did he use this word in a racist manner?
Sustained.
Did he use this word in a vicious manner?
I think negative, disparaging, insulting, I think that pretty much covers it.
All right. Thank you, Your Honor. With regard to how this man referred to African Americans, did he ever use any other words in referring to African Americans?
Yes.
What were those words?
Oh,
You may proceed.
oh.
Bubba, anthracite.
Anthracite?
Yes. No, I'm going to strike the last question and answer. Disregard that. That's an area that's beyond.
All right. Very well, yeah.
I thought we were going into something quite different than that.
Oh, yeah. Now, with regard to the 42 or so instances in which this man used this offensive word, some of those words are on tape. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you've heard those tapes, have you not?
Yes.
And you can, if I were to play at least one of those tapes for you, you can identify Mr. Furman's voice, could you not?
Yes.
Now, with regard to, we have two excerpts, Your Honor, we would like to play at this point. If we could, I think that we have transcripts for the two excerpts, one of which is on tape, one of which is not. I'd like to pass those out to the jury if we can, Your Honor. Let me get a look at those.
The transcript can be passed out. Although it is, Mr. Cochran,
I'm sorry.
given the time it will take to pass it out and collect it, it is something we can't put on the envelope.
Well, it'll be up on the screen also, but at some point I'd like to mark it, Your Honor, that there's the next, is our next.
I'd like to see it, if I may.
Do you have a copy?
Here's a copy. Mr. Douglas gave him a copy, so look at it, read his own copy. May I mark that as our next, Your Honor?
1367.
1367. All right. Now, let me just inquire, Your Honor, if I might.
It appears we are about to hear the playing of at least one of the excerpts from the Mark Furman tapes. As you heard Phil Schuman report to us a few minutes ago, the judge changed the excerpt that we will be hearing from one in which apparently Mr. Furman's voice was almost inaudible to one where you can clearly hear him using the word.
The defendant's next, 1368, as the tape that Mr. Harris will be playing.
Yes.
Mr. Harris has some speakers, Your Honor. He's going to move at this point. The court pleases. Let me ask a question while he's doing that, Your Honor. Now, with regard to, may I give her an excerpt, Your Honor, on the excerpt?
Yes.
Do you have one?
I've got mine.
Paul, this is Jim Avila in the newsroom. This tape we're about to hear does include the N-word, and it will be broadcast here on Channel 4. We want to warn people about that. It is the new excerpt, which Mark Furman's voice is more audible. Let's listen as Johnny Cochran continues the question. Laura Hart McKinney.
This first one, with regard to this first instance that we're going to be seeing shortly, can you give us some background? I'll read it, Your Honor, and ask her to give us some background regarding this. In this particular one, I believe this is one where it was taped over, and we have just a transcript. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And with the question, the quote by Furman is, "We have no niggers where I grew up." Do you recall him saying that?
Yes.
Is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what he said?
Yes.
And what tape was that where he made that statement?
That was during our first interview.
And that was the one you described for the jury. This was taped over?
The first taped interview, April 2nd, 1985.
And with regard to that particular one about having no African Americans where he grew up, can you compare that with the other 42 others from a standpoint of how he used that word and that compared to the others?
It's a vague question as well. I don't know that anybody could really answer that question.
Let me try again. Okay?
Rephrase the question.
Okay. With regard to this instance where we have no blank where I grew up, you have that in mind?
Yes.
Can you compare that with the other 42 times or so that he used this in the course of your interviews? If there's any difference between how he used the term there and the other 42 times or so?
Objection.
You may answer.
Yes, there's a significant difference here. This particular example is the least offensive and inflammatory in comparison to the others.
All right. Now,
All right. I'm going to strike that answer. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a judgment that is not appropriate at this point in time. You to disregard that last question and answer. Next question.
All right, Your Honor. With regard to, let's move down to the second incident we've been allowed to use that for Furman speaking. They don't do anything. They don't go out there and initiate a contact with some 6'5" nigger that's been in prison for 7 years pumping weights. Do you recall Mr. Furman saying that to you at some point?
Yes, however, I believe...
All right.
Next question.
You do recall that? And that is on tape, is it not?
Excuse me.
All right. I understand. Let me just look at my question, Ms. McKinney. Do you recall that being said, Ms. McKinney?
I recall that being said,
Okay.
yes.
And was that said, were you present during that interview?
Yes.
All right. And was that an interview where you had another person present with you, a Miss Lori Diaz?
Yes.
All right. And you were present there, is that correct?
Yes.
And you heard Detective Furman, in interacting with Lori Diaz, make the statement I just read. Is that right?
That's correct.
All right. Is that what you wanted to tell us?
Yes, that is.
All right. And if you were to see these, hear this on tape, would you be able to identify Mr. Furman's voice?
Certainly.
And would you, I don't know if we're going to hear Ms. Diaz's voice or not, but you could identify his voice. Is that correct?
And Miss Diaz's as well.
Okay. Very well, Your Honor. If the court pleases, may we have Mr. Harris put up the, I want to go back and ask a question regarding the first one. It's not on tape. Then we'll have Mr. Harris play that.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean that.
Sorry. Go ahead.
May I have an opportunity to hear what they're going to play, given the possibility of other voices on the tape?
Though I think we've all had sufficient opportunity at this point, Mr. Darden. All right, Mr. Harris, do you have your headphones available there?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, would you play that quickly for Mr. Darden, please?
Paul and Colleen, what they're
Oh, he's doing
going
that. Can we
to
pass
be
out?
listening to here is this one comment which has been allowed out of the 42 that were on tape. This is the audio tape which was changed today because the defense said that the one the judge originally allowed was inaudible. Now they're being allowed to play this one in front of the jury. This is the first time the jury will hear Mark Furman's own voice using the dreaded N-word. The quote is, they don't do anything. They don't go out there and initiate contact with some 6'5" N that's been in prison for 7 years pumping weights. That will be the only time the jury hears that. Today, of course, has been all day long testimony to rebut Mark Furman's credibility and to show that he has used the N-word repeatedly. There have been a series of witnesses who have recounted some horrific tales of Mark Furman using racial epithets and insulting blacks repeatedly.
You know,
this,
Jim,
this will be the final thing, the culmination of the defense case on the N-word itself.
You know what was interesting to me, too? Johnny Cochran got her to answer that, one of the quotes that in the transcripts of the tape that was destroyed was the least objectionable or offensive of the 41, and that was the defense's argument all along, and then Judge Ito struck the answer.
That's because by design, and the judge said earlier today that by design he had picked the two least offensive tapes, and that was because they didn't want them to be inflammatory or to be prejudicial. That the purpose of these tapes being played is to show that Mark Furman lied. It's not to inflame the jury.
Cochran, juror number 98 is indicating that she has two of the same pages.
And therefore,
Do you have
that's
any
why
other
he would
copies?
play those. He allowed those to be played. It showed that Mark Furman used the N-word when he denied using it, but at the same time, they are not the most, the worst cases, and they would not necessarily inflame the jury.
Interesting as well, Jim. Laura Hart McKinney said that in describing the interviews with Mark Furman, said that more often that when he used the N-word, it was sort of casual banter. It was his normal, ordinary pattern of speech, I believe she said. And repeatedly, when Johnny Cochran asked the questions, in his line of questions, he mentions that there were 41 or 42 examples of the N-word in these interviews done with a screenwriter.
Yes, the judge did, in his ruling, say that the defense could bring out through testimony that Mark Furman had used the word 41 to 42 times. They just could not go through each one and tell the jury which each one was or play each one for the jury. So the testimony was allowed. The jury does know now that during this screenwriting operation that Mark Furman was consulting on, he did use the N-word repeatedly, and they will shortly hear, as soon as it's queued up again, hear for the first time in Mark Furman's own voice him using the N-word, which directly refutes his assertion earlier in the trial in March when he said he did not use the word over the last 10 years.
And again, the reason the judge granted the change in quotes to be heard by the jury was because the first one, Jim, was inaudible. You could hardly hear it.
You could barely hear his voice during that one. There was some laughing, and you could barely hear him using the N-word. The judge explained that today. He said that when he was going over his ruling, he used the transcripts and only looked at the content and did not listen themselves. He did not listen himself to the tape, and therefore he didn't realize that it was inaudible, and so he allowed the defense to play a different one and chose this one. They're still in court right now, queuing up, making sure they have the right tape that the judge has allowed. This is the one which, in answer to a question about why Furman did not like female officers, he said they don't do anything, they don't go out there and initiate contact with some 6'5" N that's been in prison for 7 years pumping weights. That's what you'll hear. That's and it should be Mark Furman's voice when it's played.
And the reason they're being so careful, too, I'm sorry, Carlene, the reason they're being so careful, too, is they just don't want to queue up the wrong excerpt. I mean, that's what this exercise is all about.
I can ask you while he's doing that. Ms. McKinney, did Mr. Furman ever at any time apologize to you for the way in which he used this word, this N-word?
Sustained.
again, as we pointed out, the jury has transcripts of what will be heard in court on the Mark Furman tapes. On the witness stand right now, Laura Hart McKinney. Jim Avila, if you're still there. Actually, I'll throw this out to both you and Jim. The situation where Laura Hart McKinney said that the excerpt was perhaps the least offensive and inflammatory. The judge struck that from the record, but isn't that a situation where you can't unring the bell, to quote Manny Medrano?
Well, certainly they've heard that. When they review it, however, it depends on the jury. The jury does listen to the judge. Survey after survey says that the of jurors who have served on juries, that the judge's words are treated as though they are God's words, and they do listen. So it's possible that they would disregard that the reason why the judge did strike it was because, for the very reason he only allowed these two to be played, or for the jury to hear them. He does not want the jury to be inflamed and prejudiced by these tapes. They go for one purpose only.
It would seem to me, too, Jim, that the length of this trial, when they finally get to considering the evidence as they're deliberating, if it's stricken, it's stricken, and they probably will not pay heed to it, or perhaps not even remember it when they finally get down to deliberation. Less than a minute.
And if they want to go back and find it, Paul, it won't be in the record, so they won't be able to find it. Sometimes juries...
All right, let me ask the jurors to step back into the jury room for a few moments.
It appears that we're going to have a major delay here in queuing up the correct tape. Remember that the defense was prepared to play another tape, a different tape today, and the judge just a few minutes ago ruled that they would be allowed to play this other tape, which is much clearer, and that it's a different instance where Mark Furman is using the N-word. So things are changing there, and they're having difficulty queuing up the tape. We'll be watching it and get back to you when they do have it queued up.
Yeah, Jim, and if they were to play, God forbid, the wrong excerpt, that is really unringing the bell. You can't do that. They really want to guard against that. Thank you, Jim Avila, very much. What would you like to do, folks? We're going to take a break? All right, we'll take a break.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
We'll be right back.
We'll be right back. See you.
There's a place unique in the world where the breeze is gentle, the sea crystal clear, and sunsets light the way to a million jewels beneath Diamond Head. Here, the palaces of kings and the monuments for heroes await you, and Hawaiian Airlines Vacations can take you there. Waikiki and Oahu. 6 days, 5 nights, from just $412 per person, including airfare. Call 1-800-GO-HAWAII, extension 77, for a free Hawaiian Airlines vacation travel planner for Waikiki and Oahu, where the beach is just the beginning, in the islands of Hawaii. 1-800-GO-HAWAII, extension 77.
Listen up, this is important.
There's nothing my husband loves more than sports, and boy, does he work up an appetite.
Let me tell you, I get hungry. That's why new Stouffer's Hearty Portions is a good idea.
It's hearty, it's big portions.
2 pieces of chicken and all those mashed potatoes.
Stouffer's Salisbury steak. It tastes like homemade. It's a great value.
New Stouffer's Hearty Portions. It's the right size for me.
Stouffer's, nothing comes closer to home.
Some plants die of natural causes, others not so natural. Fortunately, if anything happens to a plant you buy at Orchard, they replace it free. Don't even think about it. Orchard, complete hardware and garden.
Now at Orchard, find landscape shrubs in 6 varieties. 1-gallon containers only $2.99 each. And spring blooming bulk bulbs. King Alfred daffodils 12 cents each. Tulips 17 cents each. Orchard, complete hardware and garden.
We are monitoring the situation in the courtroom. Laura Hart McKinney's testimony and the playing of the tapes. When they get back to business, we will too. Fritz has been covering a lot of hurricanes this season, and now he's got another one to worry about, Hurricane Luis.
Yes,
sir. Yes, sir. We're going to talk about Luis in just a second, but let's take a look at some good news close to home. That is the downgrading of Tropical Storm Henriette, downgraded from a hurricane last night. Northwestward movement, further weakening expected, and the looser it gets, the more it loses its center, the more of its moisture it throws up into our monsoon flow, that pipeline of moisture that moves south to north up into our area. Thunderstorms as close to us as San Diego today. Not a problem, becoming less of whatever little problem it is. Hurricane Luis now Going to move it along. 125-mile-an-hour winds west-northwest at 8 miles an hour. I'm told we're going to take it back to the courtroom. Guys.
Sorry about that. We'll get back to you in a couple of seconds, Fritz. Back to the courtroom. Johnny Cochran addressing Judge Ito.
Approximately the same time,
and Laura Hart
later
McKinney.
in that month of April, or possibly in the beginning of May
Of 1985?
of 1985. Yes.
All right, Ms. Harris, are we ready? All right, let's start with the one that does not have a tape. Hold that there. In the course of the times that you interviewed this man, did you find out where he had grown up?
In Washington State.
Was this discussion come about during the discussion where he actually grew up and lived?
Yes.
Is that an accurate statement, ma'am?
Yes.
They don't do anything. They don't go out and initiate contact from 6 foot 5. They get the perfect perception of lighting.
You recognize the voice of the person who was saying they don't do anything, they don't go out there and initiate a contact. Some 6 foot 5 inch nigger has been in prison for 7 years pumping weights. Who said that?
Officer Mark Furman.
When did he say that?
In April or early May of 1985.
And that was his voice, all right?
Yes.
No doubt about it?
No doubt about it.
Press, you can point to me. Please.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our recess for the day at this time. Please remember all my admonition to you. Don't discuss the case amongst yourselves. Don't form any opinions about the case. Don't conduct any deliberations until the matter has been submitted to you. Do not allow anybody to communicate with you with regard to the case. We'll stand in recess until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Ms. McKinney, you may step down. You're ordered to come back tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock.
Thank you very much.
All right. Also, Deputy Bashmakin, would you collect all of the tape transcripts? Just pass that all down.
All right, we have heard for the first time, the jury has heard Mark Furman's voice using the expletive, the N-word. And let me ask Colleen and Jim, in my earpiece, I could not make it out very clearly at all. Jim, could you hear it, Colleen? Could you hear it?
It was very difficult to hear, Paul. That's been one of the problems with the tapes. In the courtroom, in that big overhead screen they have there above where the witness sits, were the words themselves. Now, we couldn't see that, but the transcript is up there as the defense. That's why you can see Johnny Cochran looking up in the air. And the jury, with the aid of that transcript, I'm sure was able to understand that what was said there was they don't do anything. They don't go out there and initiate contact with some 6'5" N that's been in prison for 7 years pumping weights. They saw something pretty much what you're seeing on the screen here at the same time they heard the tape. That, of course, makes it much easier to hear the tape. But you're right, it's difficult to hear these tapes recorded by not for own notes. So it's very difficult to hear.
What's interesting to look on this was in court today. You may have noticed the camera was on him for a long time there. He sat rather emotionless as that tape was played. Did you notice that at all?
I did indeed. Also, Jim and Colleen, what's today? No. The go home now tonight. Last thing they heard and the last thing they read what was on that tape. So they will undoubtedly be thinking about that tonight, although they're admonished not to do that. Jim, that they will.
Well, the capper of a big defense, this and I also heard from witnesses who were very strong this morning, Kathleen Bell and also Singer, who both counted of Furman using the N-word in very vivid night. They were very credible witnesses. This was a real capper for the defense day.
Jim, thank you for being with us. Now about 5:30. You've been watching us all along, and hearing the first time the jury has heard an excerpt from the tape recorded by Laura McKinney, using the N-word, the racial expletive, and the jury for the first time just heard that. Couldn't hear it very well. So they knew darn well what Mark Furman had said. They're coming on the heels of testimony from a couple of witnesses today who also said they heard Mark Furman use the N-word.
And although it was stricken from the record, the jury knew going in this was probably the least offensive and inflammatory part of the interview tapes that were done with Detective Mark Furman. Johnny Cochran repeatedly mentioned there were at least 42 instances on these tapes, and although the jury would only get to hear a couple of them, they certainly know there were more.
And Laura McKinney, if you back stand tomorrow, hold, then continue.
Excuse me, Willie Williams launch an internal investigation. He says he asked the city attorney to give him copies of Furman tapes to root out other racist cops. Now, pictures Detective Mark Furman. The chief says he plans to do, and I'm quoting here, a biopsy on Furman's life at the police department. Laurel Erickson's in the newsroom right now with more on that part of the story.
The chief was at the LA City Council today. That's what he didn't tell the politicians. He is doing a biopsy in the department, doing a biopsy of Detective Mark Furman. And the chief said, who are close to Furman, thought a Britain would be concerned.
And Chief Willie Williams sharpened the surgical blade.
His entire life in this department. We're going to go in, we're going to take a look, we're going to up, down, sideways. I want to find out everything I can about the department, what he did, where he worked.
Chief Williams and Police Commission President Deirdre Hill at his side suggested 100 other cops or LAPD workers could be in hot water for making similar racist comments. Then there is the question of crooked cops, the kind of cops described by Chief Williams last Friday, detectives now accused of forging witness statements against defendants. The chief was asked, can we assume they are the only crooked cops now under investigation?
No, you shouldn't.
City Council members David Mark Furman questioned how such cops get on the force and wondered when will it all end. Joel Wax took out a $10,000 newspaper ad. That ad apologizes to the city of Los Angeles for the racism expressed by one of its former cops, Furman.
When there's awareness that innocent people have really been victim to this kind of hate-filled brutality, you understand one thing we can do.
Practice that rules that protect police officers should be rewritten so the city has an easier time firing what he calls apples. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Laurel. We had to interrupt Fritz Coleman a couple of minutes ago to take care of business in the court. That is done for the day. Now we're going to give him all the time he wants, and he's going to need it because he's talking about hurricanes and tropical storms and our weather, too. You got some time.
I wish I had this many opportunities to get this right on a daily basis. Let me give this another shot. We'll talk about what is now Tropical Storm Henriette, folks. This could be important to us, particularly Wednesday and Thursday. As it breaks apart and becomes less and less of a problem, the moisture shoots up into our monsoon flow, maybe thunderstorms, and maybe for everybody, Thursday morning along the coast, Thursday afternoon inland. That is everybody. And it just continues what has been a weird year all around. So more on Luis later on. Guys?
Weird weather, weird aftershocks here. A strong aftershock rolled through the Yucca Valley today, followed by a second one a little over an hour later. Now, this was the first quake at 1:27 this afternoon, as recorded on the Channel 4 seismocam. This one registered 4.7, knocked bottles and cans off store shelves, but otherwise didn't do much damage. About an hour and 20 minutes later, a 3.0 hit the same area. Scientists at Caltech say both were aftershocks of the Big Landers earthquake, now 3 years ago. Do you believe it's been that long?
No, it doesn't seem that long at all, does it? But a lot's happened in 3 years, that's for sure. Up next tonight for us, a new controversy in Las Vegas. We'll tell you why this surveillance camera may have caught security guards roughing up a suspect.
And are you ready for this? The secret treasure that may be right in the middle of Los Angeles. Let the hunt begin. Still ahead.
Hi, I'm Lisa Gibbons.
And I'm Dana Miller, Board Chair of AIDS Project Los Angeles. Today, APLA serves over 5,200 men, women, and children living with AIDS in LA County.
On Sunday, September 17th, we hope you'll join us for AIDS Walk LA. It begins and ends right here at Paramount Studios in Hollywood.
This is the largest annual fundraiser for APLA, and we need your help.
So please call now to register and then ask your friends, your family, and your coworkers to sponsor you. Come on out and walk with us on September 17th. You'll feel great.
Call 213-466-WALK. That's 213-466-WALK.
Still trying to get into that new car or truck you've always wanted? It's easy here at Foothill Nissan. Are you a first-time buyer? Maybe have bankruptcies, judgments, repossessions, bad credit. No credit at all? No problem. $500 delivers the new car or truck that you want at Foothill Nissan. We take pride in having financed over 35,000 customers with credit problems. Hey, that's why they call us the second chance people. Come to Foothill Nissan at 3333 Foothill Boulevard in La Crescenta or call 213-687-7000.
It was pouring. My car started to slide and skid. I jumped out to see that the tire was flat. I didn't know where I was. I said, yikes, what am I gonna do? I called AAA. It's not a flat tire, it's not a jump start. It's a person out there. I described some local landmarks to the dispatcher. So then the tow truck driver shows up in this yellow suit and says, are you Lydia? We live where our members live, so we know the area.
Dispatched locally to find you fast. AAA, we're always with you.
Travis Carver, Chris
Chaffin. Debbie Chin. Kelly Klein. David Cole. Susan Conklin.
Hi, this is Paul Reiser. NBC wanted me to tell you that Mad About You is moving to Sunday nights at 8. They said, whatever you do, say Sunday nights at 8 as many times as you can. I said, well, it's going to be annoying to keep saying Sunday nights at 8. They said, no, it's fine. People like hearing it's Sunday night at 8. I said, boy, if it was up to you, you'd have me on TV saying Sunday nights at 8, Sunday nights at 8, Sunday nights at 8. Well, I won't do it, and you can't make me.
Hey, Mad About You is moving to Sundays at 8.
Stop it already.
That's Mad About You Sundays at 8, 7 Central, starting in 2 weeks on NBC.
Despite international protests, France set off an underground nuclear explosion today on a remote string of islands in the South Pacific. It happened right here beneath an atoll about 600 miles southeast of Tahiti and more than 3,000 miles southeast of Hawaii. The explosion took place about 2:30 this afternoon. That's local time. It even registered here on the Channel 4 News seismocam. Take a close look. You can see the mark at precisely 2:30 just to the left of the seismograph needle. French officials say the blast was stronger than the atomic bomb that destroyed Hiroshima.
3 police officers in Las Vegas are facing criminal charges tonight for the alleged beating of a homeless person at a hotel there. Surveillance video from the Fremont Hotel shows officers punching a 39-year-old man. There you see him there. He was being questioned about a purse snatching. The tape then shows him being dragged into a back room where another beating allegedly occurred. They face arraignment tomorrow in connection with the assault.
Colleen, as you know, a lot of late-breaking news tonight, and let's check in with Wendy Dakuda in our newsroom for a preview of the Channel 4 News coming up tonight at 6. Hi, Wendy.
Hi, Paul. For the first time, the jury hears about racist statements that Mark Furman made. At 6 o'clock, our reporter in the courtroom tells us how the jurors reacted to that explosive testimony. 3 years after the Landers quake, another strong aftershock hits today. We're going to show you what happened. And hundreds of investors, they paid bucks to own a piece of paradise. But they bought it from someone who apparently had no right to sell. And now they may be out millions. We'll have that story and a lot more coming up at 6 o'clock. Paul and Colleen?
Okay. All right, Wendy, thank you. Still to come right here. Can you imagine this? Heartless thieves, they stole wheelchairs. Tonight we'll hear the victims speak out.
Also coming up tonight, Fred's got a load. Get a load of the NFL's new Maverick. He's pulled a power play that has the league very, very upset.
This check is signed by Minnie Mouse. We cashed it. This one says void. Don't pay me. I'm counterfeit. We cashed it. How could this be? A hidden camera investigation. Dateline NBC tonight.
Hi, I'm Linda Damiano. I helped develop Stouffer's new creative recipes. They're different, totally new for Stouffer's. There's chicken with penne and a garlic parmesan sauce, turkey with Dijon. My favorite is shrimp with angel hair pasta. Interesting herbs and spices, new recipes, lots of variety. Stouffer's new creative recipes. They're different. It's home cooking for the way we eat today.
Stouffer's, nothing comes closer to home.
Extra, extra! Read all about Kmart's biggest Hoover sale of the year!
All Hoover cleaners are on sale with prices as low as $29.99 at Kmart. The handy runabout quick broom for carpet and bare floor cleaning is only $34.99. The Hoover Double Duty Wet Dry Supreme is just $29.99. And get 1 pack of vacuum bags for just a penny when you buy the Hoover Encore Supreme with hard compartment for just $99.97.
Check your Sunday paper for extra, extra savings on all Hoover cleaners, only at Kmart!
Hello, America. Remember me? I am Alice Scott, and I lost 37 pounds on Jenny Craig. It takes action. I had to act. Are you happy with your weight? Are you bumping your head up against the wall? Are you sick and tired of being sick and tired? Go ahead and give Jenny Craig a call today. Results start the minute you do.
Start Jenny Craig now, and you can lose 20 pounds for $20. Call 1-800-39-JENNY. That's 1-800-39-JENNY. Why wait another day?
Pick up that phone and call this number. You see it. You see it.
Mr. Rogan joins the neighborhood tonight. All eyes are on Baltimore.
Indeed, history taking place tonight in Baltimore, where the first-place Angels are taking on the Orioles, and Cal Ripken Jr. He is in the process of tying the unthinkable Major League record for most consecutive games played, set by the immortal Lou Gehrig. Ripken playing in his 2,130th game. In yesterday's loss to the Angels, Ripken played in game 2,129. It is inconceivable that Ripken essentially has not missed a day of work in 13 years. Not many people can say that in any business. Ripken does have an infield hit tonight. Angels trail 4-0 in the third. Highlights tonight at 11 o'clock. And just to sum things up, here's the Cal Ripken Jr. watch, as only we can. Only time will tell us for tomorrow's game against the Angels. I got all screwed up by the watch. Ripken should break the record. It kind of threw me. If the NFL hadn't had enough problems with Al Davis, take a look at the game's newest Maverick. Last night during the Cowboys' 35-0 shutout of the Giants, Dallas owner Jerry Jones announced a 7-year, multi-million-dollar endorsement deal with Nike and owner Phil Knight. The problem? The NFL has revenue sharing through NFL properties for endorsement deals. But the deal with Nike and the Cowboys go one up with Pepsi because Pepsi also signed with the Cowboys as well, and that means all that money goes into Jones' pocket alone. The league is upset and will hold a hearing on the matter. The other factor, the Cowboys have increased their chances of signing Deion Sanders, especially after Cowboy cornerback Kevin Smith was knocked out for the season, since Deion has a deal with Nike himself.
I got that.
Did any of that make any sense?
A little bit did, yeah.
Wow. Finally, something we hope to bring you on a weekly basis. Here's the first edition, the debut, if you will, of Football Phantoms. Little things to consider or that you might not have noticed from Sunday's NFL action, and here is week 1 of the Phantoms. Football Fathoms, things to think about in week 1 of the NFL.
Say, can you see?
Pop group Boys to Men had the best performance by a recording artist. They sang the national anthem before the first game ever in Jacksonville.
For the land of the free.
Trust us, they finished with no problem. Boys to Men will probably release the recording for another platinum hit. Best performance by a player with the same name as a recording artist, Michael Jackson, not the singer himself, but the Browns receiver. He caught the Browns' only scores in a 17-14 loss to the Patriots. Jackson, the player, will not be recording any music. The best performance by a guy named Isaac since Sir Newton, Hayes, or even the bartender on the Love Boat, Isaac Bruce of the Rams, blocked the Packers' punt, then scored the game's first touchdown 5 seconds later. Not bad. Finally, we always marvel at the NFC West standings. The Rams are tied for first place with the 49ers this late in the season. All right, and we'll keep you posted on all that.
The countdown clock was a little too loud.
Yeah,
That's what threw you.
It sounded like a ticking bomb, actually.
Everything's about to blow back there. But tomorrow, we'll have it back, and we'll kind of tone down the ticking.
Cool.
Good.
All
right, Fred, thanks. This next story is really hard to believe. Why would someone want to steal a bunch of wheelchairs? Who knows, but apparently they did in Orange County. They took them from a group of physically challenged people out for a good time on a camping trip. Vicki Vargas has their story.
Tina Bigley is trying to contain her anger, but it's tough. Her only shred of independence is gone. She can no longer get from A to B on her own.
Basically, I can't move. I have to wait for someone to move me.
The 34-year-old woman was camping with 6 other handicapped adults here at Featherly Park. The Labor Day weekend trip was their chance to enjoy the great outdoors. But Monday morning, they awoke to find 2 of the wheelchairs missing, stolen from right outside their tents. What do you think of someone who would steal a wheelchair?
I'd have to say there's something wrong with them. I really would.
Because it was a holiday, almost every campsite was filled, but no one claims to have seen anything. One thing is for certain, the wheelchairs were taken sometime during the night. This lightweight sports chair was also taken. It will cost $4,000 to replace it. Without it, Jose Pinto has lost his independence too.
It's kind of like if you've saved and got a new car, and then somebody takes a new car from you. Well, that's like his. It was his brand new sports wheelchair, and it's gone now. It's just gone.
Mark Titmus is one of the lucky ones. He still has his wheels. Tina's stolen chair is just like this one, but all black, and it weighs 300 pounds. But she believes she will get it back.
I'm a survivor. I will get through this somehow.
Vicki Vargas, Channel 4 News, Santa Ana.
So heartless. Police have few leads here. They are looking for a white cargo van that was apparently seen near the campsite.
Okay, Colleen, still to come for us right here tonight. It could be the most beautiful stretch of beach in California. The homes are beautiful too. But the people who bought them now might lose them. Details at 6.
And coming up next right here, does X mark the spot in downtown Los Angeles? One expert says yes.
You said it was going to be last winter. It wasn't last winter. You said it was going to be last spring. It wasn't. You said it was going to be summer. Summer's gone. Come on, now's the time. Because if you join Weight Watchers now, you'll register free and get the fall guarantee. Lose at least 15 pounds in 10 weeks, or meetings are free until you do. Weight Watchers has helped over 1 million people lose weight this year alone. So stop putting it off and start taking it off. Call now. Get free registration and the fall guarantee.
The Nissan Sentra has a great deal of room, a very smooth ride, and a cabin that's so quiet it might surprise you. The Nissan Sentra.
That's rather personal.
How much do you spend every year on long distance?
Could be a small fortune.
More than $1,000.
How'd you like to get some of that back?
Certainement.
Say again?
What do I have to do?
Just get Sprint Cents International. Now, on top of simply great rates to countries around the world, you'll get cash back every year you're with Sprint, so it pays to stay.
Really fabulous to get cash back. I would call more often.
Oh, I'll go for a vacation.
Cash is good.
What are you going to do with the money you get back from Sprint?
Call for Sprint Cents International, now with cash back.
Oh, she's got to notice me when she comes by. I mean, look at me. What's not to notice? I'm here. I tell you, if you want to feel good, you got to look good. And if I'm going to run good, I got to feel good. Look at me. I'm designed for a high-octane gas. I love it. That's what I need. This Chevron Supreme with Tech Run. I mean, it makes me run like a champ. It's all good stuff. I mean, it's mind-boggling.
No premium outperforms new Chevron Supreme with Techron. Chevron, simply smarter.
I mean, I don't mean to brag or anything, but I feel stupendous.
If you can see it in your mind's eye, you'll find it at Stroud's fall sale. Once-a-year savings on the softest, strongest Egyptian cotton towels. Irregulars $9.99 at Stroud's.
Hidden treasure in Southern California. A man in Los Angeles says that there's gold and silver in the hills of Elysian Park, and he wants permission to go out there and find it. That's right, folks. Hidden treasure in Elysian Park, home of Dodger Stadium. Take a look at the live shot. A local treasure hunter said he believes a lost fortune may be buried right where you're looking, anywhere, somewhere right there. Gordon Torkamatsu is, it's got me shook up. He's got details in a live report from Elysian Park. Got your shovel, Gordon?
Well, Paul, imagine Elysian Park back in 1847. There was plenty of soft sandstone, hidden valleys and hills, just the perfect place to hide your family fortune. Well, now some treasure hunters say just exactly that was done here, and they want permission to find it. Veteran treasure hunters say it would look something like this. Pure silver and gold, pieces of 8 and 8 reals. They're worth hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Now, this was one of the things put out by the city.
Problem is, it's out here somewhere, hidden, maybe for more than a century. Marvin Baker is one hunter who spent months cataloging marks on boulders in the area, marks that might be primitive maps.
They say the treasure symbols on that rock are barely discernible. You can see them from here.
Over the years, the search for treasure at Elysian has been legendary. It's believed that Mexican families buried their wealth there before 1847. They apparently feared looting by American troops under Commander John Fremont, who arrived that year to claim California.
And we know that they hid stuff when Fremont was coming in. That's on record. We know that they have dug tunnels.
Treasure hunter Roy Roush made perhaps one of the most significant treasure finds in the park. 10 years ago, he found this filled-in tunnel and dug it out. Inside, he found evidence that a Mexican family may have already been there and recovered their money.
No treasure. We just found a tool, flashlight batteries, and this piece of broken rope in the bottom. Now, so if there was one, there had to be others.
Now, there's a group in Texas called the National Underwater and Marine Agency. They are the ones asking for permission to dig up parts of Elysian Park. They also say they've done some ground studies here and have found what they call metal anomalies in a couple of places in the park. They want to find out what those metal anomalies are all about. Reporting live from Elysian Park, Gordon Tokumatsu, Channel 4 News. Paul and Colleen, back to you.
I'll bet they do, Gordon. Thank you. Still ahead right here, the jury's view of today's testimony in the O.J. Simpson trial. Coming up at 6, our reporter inside the courtroom tells us what he saw when the jury heard that explosive testimony.
And next right here, they said, "I do," in front of thousands.
heard of store cards, gas cards, even car cards? Well, now hear this. With the Shell MasterCard from Chemical Bank, you make purchases. And those purchases earn free Shell gasoline. The more you use it, the more gallons of free gasoline you earn. The Shell MasterCard from Chemical Bank. Look for an offer in the mail or pick up an application at a Shell station.
Here I am, 65. Don't have to wear those starched shirts anymore. I can come and go as I please. I can see an R-rated movie. I'll never be late for work. I'll never have acne again either. And for the first time, my garden will have more tomatoes in it than weeds. Now, I can be stubborn and opinionated, but no one will ever point it out. I think finally I'm going to look good in one of those hats with the small brim.
With age comes certain advantages. Quality healthcare should be one of them. Introducing Kaiser Permanente Senior Advantage, a healthcare plan for Medicare beneficiaries with everything you want, like $5 doctor visits, and nothing you don't, like premiums and deductibles. You're even covered for dental, prescriptions, and eyeglasses.
Gonna take a little while before I get this thing down.
Kaiser Permanente Senior Advantage. For a free enrollment package with no obligation, call 1-800-203-4405.
When trouble breaks out around the world, Jag is there.
She's missing.
Part soldier.
To hell and back.
Part detective.
She disappeared sometime last night.
All hero. Jag. From the creator of Quantum Leap and Magnum P.I.
She was murdered.
Jag, an American hero for the 90s.
I need time. Time to find out what happened.
Jag. Saturdays this fall on NBC.
Hard to believe, but something really unusual happened at New York's Grand Central Station today. It was a wedding, part of a promotion by a department store with the blessings of the city presiding over the ceremony. There you can see New York's Mayor Giuliani.
By the authority vested in me by the laws of the state of New York as the mayor of New York City, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Thank you. May God bless you. Please kiss the bride.
He didn't have to be asked twice. Not only did the wedding happen in Grand Central Station, but also the new couple is spending the wedding night in a specially built room at the train station. Guess it really doesn't matter where you honeymoon, does it? That wraps it up for us right now, Paul.
Thank you for making us your choice for news at 5 o'clock. The Channel 4 News at 6 is coming straight ahead tonight. Up next on the Channel 4 News at 6, the jury hears the tapes. The defense calls screenwriter Laura McKinney, and for the first time, the jury hears Mark Furman making racist statements. And another very strong aftershock to the 1992 Landers quake. We'll have a live report from the scene of this afternoon's big shaker. And a resort villa in paradise. For many of the investors, it was a dream come true. But this dream has turned now into a nightmare. We'll show you why. The Channel 4 News at 6 begins right now.
You are watching Channel 4 News, coverage you can count on. Now, live in Southern California, this is Channel 4 News at 6.